So this video is just going to be pure screen capture. We'll fly a few different planes. I'll show you which ones are probably best for beginners, and then we'll fly a couple other ones, and you'll see the difference and why they're not beginner planes. So we'll probably start off with a beginner plane first. So we go the Easy Star. So you can see this plane. I'm moving my mouse. That's kind of the direction you're going to launch it. I can. So there's your motor. You can see my. You can see. Oh, it's not working. Oh, because I haven't launched it. Let's just launch it. So you can see my stick moving now. Yeah, that wasn't probably the best way to do it. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. I just want to get it like that. So you can see I'm moving my aileron stick and my rudder's moving. So I fly mode 1, which is the controller that you can see right now. So throttle is on the right stick up and down. Aileron, right stick left and right. Rudder, left stick left and right. And elevator, left stick up and down. That's the basic, that's all you need. Don't worry about all the other switches, not necessary right now. They look intimidating, the controllers. They're not. They're literally just those 4 things, and that's all you need. So this is a 3-channel. So I was explaining the difference between a 3-channel and a 4-channel plane. Definitely you want to start off with a 4-channel plane and never even touch a 3-channel plane. You can buy this style of plane as a 4-channel. So when I move my rudder stick, you can see the rudder doesn't move. It's a fixed rudder. When I move, oh sorry, it doesn't have ailerons. So when I move my aileron stick, the rudder moves, which is not correct. It'll handle exactly the same, or almost exactly the same as a plane of this nature with ailerons and a rudder. It's just you don't fly it. The way this flies is the rudder has the same kind of an effect as the ailerons. I think the only reason they do it is to keep costs down. Flying wise, you're better off with a 4-channel plane which has ailerons. That's the only difference. But you'll see this still flies perfectly fine, and it's okay as a trainer as long as you put the rudder. So when you connect your rudder servo to the receiver, you don't put it in the rudder channel, you put it in your aileron channel. And that way you get used to turning the plane using your right stick like that. If you hook it up so that this is your rudder, as you would a 4-channel plane, it's not going to end well when you go to a 4-channel plane. The difference I try to explain it is like an automatic and a manual car. So this is probably the equivalent of learning on an automatic car. It's perfectly doable, but then when you do want to eventually learn to drive a manual, you've obviously not learning the road rules, but you're learning to control the car again, because now you've just added another pedal and another hand movement, and it's exactly the same with this. So I would just go straight to a 4-channel, and you can even go as far as locking the rudder out on a 4-channel, so that way you like this. You instead of this having no ailerons and the rudder working, you can lock the rudder out and only use ailerons. You can do that, and then that way this stick doesn't do anything, and you're only using ailerons. And then when you think you're ready, you can connect your aileron servo up, and you can start using your rudder servo, and you can start using a rudder. I never used to fly using a rudder. The only time I used a rudder was to control the plane while it was on the ground, to taxi it over to take off, and then after that you don't really use the rudder, but you do fly better with a rudder, and I'll show you the difference. So as this has no wheels, so this is why this is a good beginner plane. You can see the upswept wings. That's what makes it handle like it has ailerons. If it was just a flat wing like an aerobatic plane, this wouldn't turn very well, but because it has those upswept wings, that's what makes it being controllable just by a rudder. So you can see the elevator there moving in the top right. You can see the control horn, you can see the push rod, you can see all that stuff. So pulling down on the stick makes the elevator go up, which will make the plane go up. The stick is in relation to the nose of the aircraft, not the control surface. So if I pull the stick like that, that means I'm pulling the nose up. If I push the stick forward, you can see the elevator go down, which means I'm pushing the nose down. So that's that difference there. Obviously you can't see the rudder, even though I'm moving my aileron stick. If I move my rudder stick, you can hear there's no servo movement. So we'll just put a bit of throttle, press the space bar, and off she goes. So I won't go full throttle. I'm probably just under half at the moment. I'll go to about half throttle there, and you can see how I've got to add power when I turn. I've got a lot of up as well. I've got almost all up, so this plane is more comfortable flying at a higher speed, unless I can trim it, but I don't think trim does anything on this. But you can see me turning, and it wants to drop. So if I just try and stay level, you can see my sticks there, and then I'll just go left, it wants to drop, and that's because it doesn't have ailerons. So this is what I'm trying to say. It is possible to learn, but it's not correct, because that's not what an aileron plane does. So that's the only difference. So if you're learning, this is pretty much what you want to do. Keep it out in front of you. Never fly behind you. Pretty much just fly over where you're going to land. You can even see, if I had a rudder, I would have been able to really line up nicely then. But yeah, you can't really. A proper rudder, I'm saying. Yeah, you'll see the difference. So like, if I want to come around to the runway that we just took off from, and I'm not completely lined up like this, I'm approaching on an angle, it's a lot harder. I've got to overfly it and try and I still can't get it to move around. So we'll leave that plane there. We'll get the next one. So we'll go to an I think that was an easy start. Yep. We don't want that one. We want the Calypso, which is kind of my go-to for recommendations of training planes, unless you can find one like that last plane with ailerons. But in my opinion, the gliders fly better, and those other planes the first plane I just flew, they normally top out at about the 1.2, between 1. You can get them smaller, but they top out at about 1.2 to 1.5 meter wingspan. Whereas these gliders normally start from 1.5 meters and go up from there. The good thing about a glider is you can learn on them, and once you have mastered them, you will still fly it. Whereas that other plane is a trainer plane, and once you've flown it, you won't want to fly that plane. Once you've learnt to fly on that plane, you won't want to fly it anymore. It doesn't fly very well. It doesn't glide very well. It won't do aerobatics, and it's just a trainer plane. So it's like riding around. Once you've learned how to ride your bike, but you keep the trainer wheels on, even though you're fully competent in riding a bike, but you're leaving the trainer wheels on. So that's one reason. But some people do benefit from that. But I always recommend a glider. They fly slower, they fly better. They're normally a 4-channel, so you can see there I've got ailerons now. You can't see the tail, but you can hear the servos going. Until I launch, my controller won't work, but yeah, that's that. And you can see the prop there flicks out, and then it folds back, so it gets out of the way. So as long as you land the plane with no throttle, which you don't need to do with gliders because they glide very well, that's why they're called a glider. As long as you land with no throttle, you've got no danger of breaking the prop. The only downside to learning to fly on a glider is if you do have a bit of a rough landing, nose in first, you are going to destroy where the motor connects at the front there. Whereas that other plane, you could see there, the motor was facing backwards up the top. It's out of the way, and you'd have to try pretty hard to damage that motor on a landing. You'd have to land upside down to damage the motor or break a prop. I've seen it done, but it's not as common as a front engine plane. But you'll see this flies a lot nicer. So I'll only go probably quarter throttle, and off we go. And she's still climbing on quarter throttle. So I'm hardly any throttle. And you can see there, I'm turning with the ailerons, and I'm going very slow, and it's not losing altitude. So we'll see how slow we can get it. So just being able to fly this slow and stable is an advantage to learning. You probably wouldn't do this. Flying this slow takes a bit of skill, which you're not going to have straight away. You probably want to, putt around half throttle, something like that. Speed gives you speed and height gives you, what I'm trying to say, like an advantage to mistakes. So that was one thing we used to say at the club was, if you're going to try a trick, try it 2 mistakes high. So, you know, 1 mistake high might be here, and you tip a wing or something, and you go, oh, and you jam the throttle, and you got time to bring it back. If you're going to try a trick, like some kind of trick, you want to be 2 mistakes high, and you stall it, and you go, oh, and no, I've got enough height to bring it back, so no dramas there. So, if you're flying less than 1 mistake high, or slow, too slow where it's a bit hard for the plane to recover, that's when you're going to get in trouble. So yeah, you don't want to fly too low, is what I'm trying to say. But with a glider you can, because it like if I just jam the throttle on, up she goes. This is a real glider. You can buy them. I'm pretty sure you can still buy them. You can buy very similar ones anyway. So yeah, this is not like it's a fantasy plane that has too much power or anything like that. And that's what I mean. That was a bit low to be doing that, but I was quick enough to catch it. And that's why you don't fly behind you, because you see what happens there. It's hard to keep a track of. So if you fly behind and you go like that, and you well, oh, I don't know where I am, and yeah, you just got to be lucky to get out of it. But yeah, you can see these fly really, really well. So I don't know if you can watch my sticks. Even though the plane, so this is the advantage of flying with a rudder. So you'll see my rudder stick there, and I can keep the plane fairly flat during a. So I'm actually turning right. I'm turning left with my ailerons, but right with my rudder, and then just balancing it out with the elevator, and you can see how flat it stays. So I've got full up, full rudder, and full ailerons, and then you just balance it out with the throttle. Doesn't like flying like that, but it can do it, whereas you can't do it with the other plane because it doesn't have ailerons. And like I'll cut the throttle now, so we're just gliding, and that's like you wouldn't land it there; it's too fast. So you'd have to go around. Go around, still no throttle, don't need it, and then the rudder drags it around and down we go. So, oh, it doesn't like that. I think I might have just broken it. No, there it goes. Yeah, it doesn't like the props hitting the ground. But you can see the rudder, you can see the elevators, should be able to see the ailerons, yep, and that's it. So that's a 4-channel. So being that it's a glider, it's exactly the same as if you were really going to fly a Cessna or a Piper Cub. These are good trainer planes as well. Only difference here, so you've still got the danger of having the motor at the front. So if you break it, you're going to damage the motor mount. You know, if you get into 3D printing, that's kind of, it goes hand in hand with this hobby, because you can reprint parts that you break fairly easily, and you can actually make parts stronger or better than factory. So I've seen people do that. They've damaged a motor mount that used to be made out of wood or balsa or plywood. Normally they don't make them out of balsa because balsa's too flimsy, so they'll make them out of plywood. They'll break it and then they'll make a new one out of 3D printer plastic, and it's way stronger than the plywood. So yeah, so if we bring this over, we'll just check out the surfaces, and you'll see they're pretty much the same as the glider. If I can get over that. So turning right aileron goes up. That's one thing you've always got to remember. Left one goes down. On planes like this, you normally have more up than down. That's what keeps it turning nice. So if you have your servos connected to your receiver individually, you can do that. A lot of planes just use a Y lead, which just mirrors the servo, and you can't do that. There's no really configuration in it, so it's better to get a higher count channel receiver, so you can do things like that. Elevator there, you can see that, down, and rudder, right is right, left is left, up is up. Even though that stick's going down, that's up, and the elevator goes up. down is down, elevator goes down, but the stick's going up. So don't worry about the stick, it's just the surface. And that's your main one. I've actually launched a plane before where you got to take the wings off to put it in the car, which means you've got to disconnect it from with the wires. I've connected it at the park, and I've connected them up back to front. So when I turned right, I was going left on the plane. When I turned left, it was going right. Anyway, I got it down, used the rudder, and I got it back down. So yeah, let's take this for a spin if I don't damage it. And I damaged it. I don't know if this has flaps, so I've got... I should have checked, but no, it doesn't. We'll fly the Cessna later, and that does have flaps. So yeah, this is just a real simple one. So tail up, pull back, off she goes. Now you can fly this with a rudder because of the style of plane that it is, and it flies better than that other plane with a rudder. But it'll fly better with ailerons. You can see there it drops. Whereas if I fly it with ailerons, you can kind of give it a bit of altitude with your rudder as you're turning. And I think I mentioned in the last video, pretty much on the simulator, grab a plane like this, and all you want to do is have 10 landings, 10 takeoffs without a crash, fully controlled. So I'm not talking like that, you know, like that, and then like that, whoop, 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 and then you bring it in and you land it, and you go, oh yeah, that's one, like, you know, like that, because that's not controlled. You're just landing wherever. I'm talking takeoff. I never go full throttle. There's no need to. If you were to fly a plane like this, same again. You'd never go full throttle. You know, like in a real plane. So yeah, you want to have 10 controlled landings, fly some circuits. Rudder, so you can go, I could just kick it round without losing any altitude. Bit of elevator, there she goes, and we'll take off. And then same deal, see that's a left turn rudder with right turn aileron. And you can hold it flat. Obviously planes don't turn like that, but you don't normally do that in a real plane. So yeah, but it can help you. And like if you're a bit too close and a bit too high, you can do tricky things like a slip landing. I wouldn't call that controlled, but I was probably a bit too close and too high. But see the rudder there just helped me get right round. And then that's an all rudder turn going up and over. And then if you want to fly upside down, your ailerons are exactly the same. The only thing that's reversed is your rudder and your elevator, so don't use them. Well, you can see there, because the plane is designed to fly not this way, so I'm always keeping a bit of pressure on the down, which down is up now because I'm upside down, and then your ailerons operate exactly the same way. I'll come in for another landing. Again, probably a bit high, so I'll go out and around. Bit of rudder to kick it over, bit of rudder to line it up. Watch your shadows, and down she goes. So yeah, again, don't want to fly behind, so we're going to go this way. So these Piper Cubs, because they're a high wing plane, very easy to control. If you were to go to a lower wing, probably like a Cirrus. So you can see that this may even have flaps, I think. So we'll bring it over. Bit rough, but anyway, we want to see what's going on here. So if I flick, I can't remember which one's my flaps, I'll just flick them all. No, this doesn't have it either. But anyway, we'll just take off from the grass because I think if I go over that again, I'm going to break it. There we go. So this is not as stable, so you got to fly it a bit faster. But as far as a low wing thing goes, this is not bad. And same again, bit of rudder, bit of elevator, And once you get that kind of in your head and you're doing it without thinking, you're just watching a plane fly and you're doing it without thinking, that's when it's time to go and buy your first plane. And if you are going to learn to fly on the simulator, if you are going to learn to fly on the simulator, then you can kind of skip that beginner plane. It's just not necessary because you've got the basics down pat already. So yeah, you don't need that. You can go straight to a glider. I wouldn't recommend going to one of these, but you could go to a Piper Cub. In real life, if you landed like that hard, you'd snap the landing gear off. Yeah, definitely not an aerobatic plane. You can see it just wants to fall. So yeah, not even worth trying. So what you want to do, so if you don't know what a stall is, we'll go and do that first. So a stall is just when you go too slow, there's no air going over the wing, or not enough air going over the wing. And a plane like this normally will drop a wing. So you'll see my controller there, I'm reducing throttle, increasing elevator. And it doesn't want to stall. It'll normally just drop a wing. Whereas this just comes down like a pancake. So that's pretty good. So that's pretty good stall characteristics for a plane, like a low wing plane. We'll try it in a Cessna later. They love to drop a wing. But yeah, little burst of power just to get me on the runway. Otherwise I was going to be a bit short there. Okay, next plane. Yeah, we'll try the Cessna. This does have flaps. We'll bring that over. You can see it's a bit bigger too, and it's petrol powered, not electric. So again, right stick, aileron up. Everything is the same, exactly the same, except for that one. That's my flaps. So you've got two positions. No, you don't. No, this is a one position switch. So they're either up or down, and that's it. You'd normally have it on a two position switch, and that way you can have half flap and then full flap. We'll just do that. That's quicker. So we'll give it that much, and you'll see it'll just take off and lift up without changing attitude. Off she goes. Oh, that's probably a bit too steep. And you can see I wasn't even touching the stick there. It just took off by itself. So nice. So I'll flick the switch. We've got no flaps now. So if we do a stall with this, it'll drop a wing. There it goes. So just nosedive it, pick up some speed, and go for it. So that's a nice little rudder turn, and then a bit of a knife edge. It doesn't like doing knife edges. Again, because the wing is high, so whether you got a high wing or a low wing plane, so high wing means the wing is above the fuselage, low wing mean it's under the fuselage. It's not going to be symmetrical, so it's harder to do aerobatics. When we switch to an aerobatic plane, you'll see where the wing comes from. It's right in the middle of the fuselage. So that's no flaps, and you can see it flies nice and slow. So this is one of the planes that I'm going to be buying. I'm going to get one of these, Cessna, and a glider. I'm going to try and keep it to two planes. We'll see what happens. I'm just waiting on sales at the moment because it's very close to Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff. So I don't want to go and buy everything and then, like a month later, everything comes on special. So I'm just going to hang out and see what happens. So I'm a bit low there, so I'll go up and then cut throttle. Even though this does glide a fair while. We'll do a landing now with flaps. So you don't want to put flaps on until you're lined up with the runway. So we'll go right out. I can't remember. Which switch it was now? It was that one. Yeah, I think it was that one. Yeah, I think it is, yeah. You can see it's just flying very slow and sitting up nice. Yeah, I can see the flaps from here, yep. So you can see that, it's just beautiful, nice in. And then very controllable, very slow. And there you go. So, yeah, you're doing that 10 times in a row. Not that bit, but yeah, the other bit, and you're all good to go. What else have we got? What's that? Oh, helicopter. So I learnt to fly helicopter. So when I first learnt to fly aeroplanes, this simulators like this didn't exist. I learnt in the year 2002, something like that. Things like this didn't exist. There were flight simulators, but you had to use your keyboard, which is pointless. I'll take a picture of what I'm using, but it's literally what you're seeing there, that transmitter. Connected, it has no guts in it. So obviously it's got the gimbals and stuff like that, but it has no radio. You can't use it in the field. It's no radio. Where the antenna would normally be is a wire, a USB cable coming out of it. So it's literally a game controller in the same style as what you would use to fly. But it has real gimbals, so you can hear that with the springs. So I don't know if I explained it, but yeah. So if I flick it, it always centers this stick. This stick will only center that way, and this stick is on a ratchet for the throttle. So obviously, once you've set throttle, you don't want to keep fighting it back to the middle, and you don't want it to sit in the middle because otherwise your plane's at half throttle as soon as you connect it. So that's your throttle. I fly mode 1, so mode 1, that's all mode 1 is throttle, ailerons, rudder, elevator. Mode 2 is more of a joystick as you would find in a plane. So I've never flown mode 2, but my understanding is rudder is still in the same spot. Then throttle is over here, so obviously that won't be sprung, that'll be ratcheted. And then over here is ailerons and elevator, and that is sprung, so it'll always center. So yeah, you have your throttle over here, and then you're flying with one stick, ailerons, and yeah, I just learnt mode 1, and that's what I got. There's not one that's better. There is also mode 3 and 4, and mode 3 and 4 is, I don't know why you would do it, but it's a combination of those mode 1 and 2s mixed up. So I only ever knew one person that flew mode 3, I think it was. And no one else. So I was an instructor at the park, so I was a mode 1 instructor. So if you came to the park with a plane and you had a mode 1 transmitter, I would teach you to fly, or somebody else. And then there was mode 2 instructors. So whoever flew. Actually, I only ever knew one guy that flew both modes. I don't know how he did it, but he could fly both modes, but he wasn't an instructor. So yeah. So with helis, it's totally different. So rudder, you can see the rear rotor on the boom is moving, so that's your rudder. Elevator is you can't really see it, but it's the if I flick the throttle, it's the swash plate is your rudder. Ailerons is the angle of your blades, your main blades. So you can see them moving. We'll wait till it stops. So yeah, you can see them moving there. And then you can see them moving with the elevator. So they both go up or both go down. With ailerons, one goes one way, one goes the other way. Like an aileron, pretty much. So obviously you don't want to be, when you start a plane, that's how you would start it, with your throttle down. There's no throttle on a helicopter, it's a switch. You don't control it, it's a constant throttle. So you want to put that, so being that is your pitch of your blade, which is up and down, you put that in the middle, flick a switch, and that's your throttle. So just wait for it to get to RPM. It's neutral at the moment, so that's down. Obviously you can't go down anymore. And then that's up. And that's rudder. It's a constant balancing act. I can't fly helicopters as well as I fly aeroplanes, that's for sure. I know enough to be dangerous, but yeah, I did learn to fly. I wanted to get a helicopter, and by the time I was going to get a helicopter, these simulators were out. So bought a simulator, and off we went. I learnt to fly. My mate said same thing. Once you can fly, take off, fly, and land 10 times, go and buy a helicopter, and you'll be fine. And he was right. I bought a helicopter similar to this one. So you'll see. So if I just go like this and give it full up, you can see how quickly it goes up and down. I tuned mine, so you can tune them so that they're not as vicious as that, and that's what I did. I think 12 degrees up and 12 degrees down with the pitch on the main blade is like something like what this would have. Mine I set to 4 degrees up, 2 degrees down, something like that. So it was very docile. It pretty much flew like this. So like that. It wouldn't do tricks. There's no way it'd go upside down or anything. It was just very docile for the first few flights, and then you can just tune it as that gets boring. You can give it 5 degrees up, 3 degrees down, and you just keep going like that until you're at 12 degrees up, 12 degrees down, and you can start with your tricks and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely beneficial learning. So when you want to land, you just flick it off, and you just auto rotate in nicely like that. Give it another flick of the switch, and off you go. Yeah, if you watch, so if you type in RC Heli 3D, so 3D is what they call the going backwards and forwards and doing things that it just doesn't. It looks fake. It looks like AI video. I can't do any of that. The most I can do is what you just seen there, and then like a bit of a rudder turn, and then a bit of a fast one with a bit of up, barrel roll, and off you go. That's about me done. So, but the helicopter I started with looked like this, and then I actually bought a body for it to make it look like a scale helicopter, and then I actually tuned it right down so that it wouldn't even do that. It would just fly around kind of like a news helicopter, and yeah, that's what I enjoyed. That's kind of what got me into all the scale, learning to fly scale, and just nice and gentle, and it's a lot cheaper because you're not crashing from trying to do tricks all the time, and so yeah, heaps nicer. I prefer that. It's much more relaxed. You don't go home with a broken toy every weekend pretty much. And yeah, that was a bit close. I wasn't going quite fast enough to send it round. But anyway, we'll bring her in for a landing. But yeah, choppers are just actually, one thing he did tell me to do is obviously the chopper's facing away from you, and you just want to. This is ultra sensitive, this helicopter, but you just want to keep it hovering. It's always going to want to. So those little movements, that's me doing that. You can see. And it's literally millimeter, just bumps on the stick, and then you want to be able to do it facing you as well. Obviously a bit harder, and things are back to front, but you want to be able to do it facing you and just correct it. That's all it is with a chopper, is just corrections. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not as good, but yeah, bit of practice, you'll be fine. So you want to get it hovering and not coming towards you. They are dangerous. The reason it doesn't matter in a simulator, you can land it at full throttle if you want to. The reason you switch it off before you land is if you do tip over on landing, by switching it off, you disconnect the motor from the mains, from the main rotors, and all the business that's associated with it. So if you do tip it over and hit a blade, you don't go and bend your whole drivetrain system and have to replace everything. Yeah, at worst you might bend the. I can't. Oh yes, I can. So at worst you might bend the main bar here, and you'll break a rotor. So it's either a $40 or $50 fix compared to a couple $100 to rebuild the whole main shaft and everything. Once that main shaft has like a tiny little bend in it, you throw it out, get a new one. And that's kind of why I got out of helicopters. They just don't take bumps very well. They're very delicate, So yeah, that's why I kind of got out of that. But I mean, once you've kind of mastered the Cub, the Cessna, that kind of plane, and you're doing your 10, 15 landings. I'm talking in real life, so we've already learnt already on the simulator. Then we go and buy a glider or a cub or something like that. Once you've mastered that in the field, then you can go to, if you really want to get into aerobatics, that's all I did for years was aerobatics. It's all I ever wanted to do. This was very similar to one of my planes that I had. You'll see, if I bring it over here, you'll see the difference. So you can see there's no fuselage, it's just flat. I broke it already. I'll just fly it here. So you'll see how much everything moves. So it's got way bigger surfaces. Everything moves a lot. So you've got a lot of control. And that's what I was talking about in the previous video with, you definitely want a transmitter that you can have dual rate and exponential. All of them do anyway, apart from those really cheap ones that have no screen. Pretty much anything with a screen is going to have dual rates and expo. If it doesn't have a screen and it's just got reverser buttons and it costs like $50 or $100, then it's probably not going to have it. I don't have it set up, but normally, like if you give it full aileron like I've done, and then you flick a switch, as soon as you flick a switch, it goes to like that. So that is as much as you get, and then you flick a switch and you get back to full movement. And then when you want to land, you go back to that mode, and you're only getting that much. Because obviously, when you're landing, you don't need too much control. You're just keeping it level. So yeah, we'll take this for a spin. So my last trick I learnt to, let's see, no, getting a bit low there, is a rolling loop. And if you watch my sticks there, it looks easy, but you've got to hit that up and down at the right time. And nah, stuffed it. Yeah, it takes a lot. I was obsessed with hovering as well, and I never had the right plane to do it. But once you get the right plane, it's very easy. Hovering's just that. Taking a touch of rudder. Oh yeah, knife edges were cool. That was probably the first trick I actually learned how to do, was knife edge. So you've pretty much just turned your, if I come nice and close, you've turned your rudder into an elevator and your elevator into a rudder because of the way I'm flying. So you'll see there, I want to go up and you can see my rudder moving. Obviously, you know, your first trick is probably a loop. Loops sound easy, but they're not. So if you got to try and keep them square. And a plane like this is quite difficult because the control surfaces are so. So if I don't do anything, oh, that wasn't too bad. But what I'm talking about is, you know, you might do that and turn it into a bit of a barrel roll. Yeah, so you've got to do little corrections. The slower you do it, the harder it is. One cool trick is a 4-point roll. So you go there, wrong way, and there. And yeah, I haven't done one of them for a long time. But they're hard to do in a plane like this as well, because it's too slow, the surfaces are too big. They're more of a, there's a competition called Pattern Flying F3A, which is a bit faster. Yeah, this is a bit floaty, this plane, to do it. Yeah, they got different. I don't know the terminology, but F3A is like pattern flying. F5J is a gliding competition. There's all sorts of stuff. There's all numbers and letters, and I don't know why they did that. But yeah, that exists if you're right into the competition style of thing. So yeah, you'll see the sticks are always doing something, but I'm not actually thinking about any of that. I'm not worried about what the stick's doing. Spin it around. Obviously it spins one way better than the other, because that's the way the propeller's going. But yeah. And like if you ever get in trouble, just get it level. That's all. That's pretty cool. And then yeah, once you've mastered it on cheap planes like that, because you will crash them. I mean, and they're not expensive planes. They might be $200 or $300 for the just for the airframe, and then maybe a couple $100 on all your electronics. Obviously, the motor is quite powerful, and you need a fairly powerful battery. So, I mean, you could set up that plane for to make it just fly. You know, you could spend $100 and get a cheap motor and all that stuff. But if you want it to do aerobatics, you're going to need Metal Gear servos, which cost more. They want to be digital as well, so they're nice and fast. You don't want a servo that's slow, so you want a nice, fast, digital Metal Gear servo, so they're very strong. You want an overpowered motor, you want a big prop, and you want a high amp speed controller and a battery that can deliver those high amps. There's no point putting a very weak battery in because you just won't get the power out of it. So yeah, but once you've gone to that, then you can kind of go anywhere. I mean, you can even go to the big. I've never flown a gas plane before, but bigger is things happen a lot slower, and they're a bit easier to control. Obviously, this has got a fair bit of power. You can do knife edge loops. Well, that's why you don't fly behind, because you don't know what's there. But big planes like this, you can see how slow it goes. It's very floaty. The only thing is, when it goes wrong big time, and it's expensive. So you can just get this, just fine tune it like a helicopter, and you can get it just to sit there. Straight into a knife edge. And same with this plane, and that's a good thing about this simulator is if you have mastered a Cub and now you want to try aerobatics, then you just load up an aerobatic plane. It's the simulator. It's not a learn to fly and then never use it again. It's you constantly can use it, and that way you can kind of figure out how you want to progress, and you just dial in the plane that you're thinking of buying. And again, learn to fly it on the simulator. It's going to be different, and it's just a good way of learning and keeping the cost down. Even though the simulator is not free, it's definitely not as expensive as crashing every weekend, especially once you get into the nice planes. There is jets. We'll try a jet out. I don't particularly like them. So yeah, now that I'm getting back into it, this is one plane that I will probably not get, is an aerobatic plane. I'm going to keep that for the simulator. I just want to do it. I enjoy gliding mainly, like big gliders, 2.5 meter plus kind of thing. They just fly really nice. I don't think there is any in this actually. Oh, there is a. I can't remember what it's called now. There is. So this comes with heaps and heaps of planes. Warbirds. I don't like military planes. I used to have one of these. That was cool, but it's not really for 3D. There. So see, it's got no motor at the front. It's hand launch. I think there's one plane that has a motor. One glider, sorry, that has a motor. In this, that looks like a glider, but it's not. It's a really fast. They're called hotliners. Where did that go? So, oh no, so that doesn't have a motor. There was one that does have a motor. They're called Hotliners. They're just made for going fast. That's all they do. Even them, see, no motor. I might as well show you quickly all the planes. You slow the footage down if you want to have a look properly, but I'm just going to go very quickly. So yeah, beginner plane definitely, but not recommended because it's only 3-channel. That doesn't have a motor, but that style, that's what I'm into, things like that. We can try one of these jets out. Cool helis. Underneath they're all pretty much the same. It's just the body that's on them, but underneath they're all very similar. But there we go, that's the one. So yeah, you'll see this thing's just ballistic. So it has, I don't know if it's got flaps. No, it doesn't. No, it should have it because they go very fast. So I used to have one of these. It was a small one called a Pylon Racer, and I lawn darted it probably on the 3rd flight, and I had to like dig it out of the grass. It went in so deep. But that's all these are made for, is doing things like that, going for speed runs. My eyes aren't the best. They used to be okay, but they're not anymore. So I can't really have planes like this because I can't see them. But yeah, that's all that is. It's nothing. Pretty similar to a jet. It's yeah, you just go fast and that's it. We'll see what else there is. Again, slow it down. So you can still buy planes like these too. They're okay as long as they come with ailerons, but they are cheap. Good way to learn. That's kind of how I learnt on planes like that, because I didn't have a simulator, so I'd pretty much just pick the cheapest plane and just went with it. That's a glider with a motor, but that's one we flew before, so it's not big. It's only 1.5 or something. Yeah. Anyway, that's about it. There's a lot of helicopters, a lot of 3D planes. Bird of Time, that's a real plane. You can get them to have an electric conversion. That one doesn't though, I'm pretty sure. That's just to throw it. Yeah, this one's actually bungee launch. So bungee launch and then, oh, there it goes. So it's just a big elastic band kind of thing. And then up you go, and you just go looking for thermals. But the glide ratio on this is unbelievable. So it'll just stay up for a long time, even without the motor. You don't need a motor. And yeah, you just go looking for thermals and stay up. Try and stay up. That's kind of what I'm into, that kind of stuff. But I like mine to have a motor, just so I don't have to get out that big bungee cord and you know, spend half an hour and walking kilometers trying to chase it all. Let's put a jet on. Let's see, the Albatros L39 is not a bad jet. It's only little though. L39. Yeah, that. So if we have a look at this one, we'll bring this around. So I was saying 4-channel planes, this is probably 6. So you've got ailerons, elevator, rudder, throttle, so there's your 4 channels. Then you've got your flaps, must be this one, no, this one, no, I don't think it's got flaps. Anyway, flaps is one. Oh, that was, this is a different version. Okay, sorry. So if you saw that, it shoots stuff. Obviously you can't do that in real life. I think this is the normal version. We'll be able to see it from here. So this, yeah, there we go. So we got flaps there. And then if you did watch my last video, I'll just get out of this rut here. If you did watch my last video, I was talking about mixers. So when you put flaps on, elevator comes in. So if I flick the flat one, you can see the elevator. So if you just, it's not me touching it. So if I was to move the elevator, it'd be that stick there on the left. But if I flick the flap switch, you can see the elevator go down. and that's to stop the nose from ballooning. So they've got a mix in this one. You can do all sorts of stuff. So even if I wanted to manipulate that and have more up or less, more up, more down, whatever, you can go edit. That's what this is pretty powerful, this program. Electronics. So you'd have to go through all of here and figure out how to do it. I don't do it. It's probably under the radio here. So yeah, but you can change all that. You can change the center of gravity. You can change all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I don't play with any of that. So we'll flick the flaps on, and then you've also got retractable landing gear. So that'll be your 6-channel. So a little bit over half. That'll get her up there. Flaps up, landing gear up. Do a nice high speed pass with the upside down turn. If you love jets and love going fast, then yeah, I can understand it, but it's not for me. I don't get it. I don't like military planes. I'm not into it. I'm more general aviation, planes that anyone could have. But yeah, if you love your jets and things like that, the only thing with jets is they're very tricky to land, only because they're going so fast. And because of my eyes that I can't see properly, yeah, it's exactly like this in real life. Like if you get them far away, like I know which way it's facing, but if you mix it up, you've got to kind of do something to see a shadow or to see your wings, and you go, oh, okay, yep, it's facing that way. And normally by the time you've done that, it's all too late. So flaps down, wheels down. I think I'm going way too fast. Yep. We'll just do another loop. We'll come back around. So you pretty much, I'm just flying on the edge of stalling at the moment. And that's kind of the slowest this thing's going to go. So we'll go big circle out. I don't know where I am in relation to that tree. So I normally, if you don't know where you are with trees, just stay on top of them. Whether you're this side of them or the other side of them, you just stay on top of them, and then you know you're not going to hit them. I'm not really good with judging distance. And I've stuffed it. I used to also race remote control cars, and the depth perception, I don't know if it's my eyes or my brain, I'm not sure, but I could just never ever get my head around it. I could never judge distance very well, so I'd be lining up for a jump on a straight, you know, that's from left to right, and I'd end up on the next track over, you know, on the I'd just hit the jump all skew and end up and jump, and I wouldn't even be on the track where I was meant to land. I'd be on the lane over kind of thing. So yeah, I gave it up after about 2 years. I probably did it for 2 years, and I just wasn't improving. I just wasn't getting any better. So yeah, I just gave it up. So yeah, and I think it's the same with planes. So what I was saying there. So we'll use this plane because it's quick. So if you're gonna cross over some trees like this, if you're flying towards some trees and you're below their line and you don't know if you're this side or just go up and over and kind of stay like that, because if you go kind of like that, don't do that, because I didn't know I was this side of those trees. It's hard to judge distance. So yeah, if you're flying like this towards the trees, you don't know. So I could see the shadow on the tree there. You don't know if you're this side of the tree or that side of the tree, or perfectly in line with the tree. So if you just stay above the tree line, you know you're never going to hit them. So that's a nice little tip from someone that's hit trees before. Try and redeem myself. Probably a bit fast. Yeah, you can't flare these planes. They just like going. See. Anyway, so yeah, that's all I've really got to say. So kind of wrapping up is make sure you get a plane that suits your skill level. Don't try and get a fast aerobatic plane straight out off the bat. Definitely buy a simulator. That is the most. I think they're up to $400 at the moment for a simulator. For this one, I've got Real Flight number 8. There is 9, and then there is Ultimate or something like that. So I'm 2 generations behind. I think they're all pretty similar, but I don't think you can even buy number 8 anymore because it's probably 5 years old. So yeah, I would definitely um, invest. The first thing I buy, without buying a transmitter or a screwdriver or a plane or anything, is a simulator, and just make sure that you can understand what's going on and learn to fly. I've taught a few people to fly. Most of them get it, but some don't. So it's not an intelligence thing. It's a brain thing. It's just some get it and some don't. Some people pick it up in 2 weeks and they're flying and they don't crash anymore. Some people take 6 months and some people don't get it. So definitely the first thing is a simulator. Um, yeah, make sure you've got that capability with left to right and things like that. And the main thing is it'll be like a switch. It'll be you thinking about what stick to move all the time, and then it'll get a little bit better, and then all of a sudden you'll pick up the transmitter one day, the first flight on your simulator, because you wouldn't have bought a plane by this stage, and you will fly, and you'll just go, I didn't even that whole 5 minute flight, I didn't even think of my thumbs or my fingers, whatever you used to fly with. Um, you would have just done it, and that was it, and that's when you know you're on to a winner. Once you're at that stage, that's when you start doing your 10 takeoffs and landings. Once you master that, then go not buy whatever plane you want. I would still start off with either a trainer or a glider. Gliders are good because they don't have landing gear. So if you have a rough landing, you're not going to break landing gear. Normally, what happens is landing gear snaps off, rotates on the fuselage, and pierces your wing and goes through your wing, and then you've snapped your landing gear mount, you've broken your landing gear, and you've broken your wing. So I would stay away from landing gear altogether for your first plane. No matter how good you get on the simulator, you can dial in wind with this. So you can so if you go environment and wind, you can change all that. But I would definitely not rely on your simulator to teach you landing in wind. Um, I would I would definitely steer clear of for your first actual. No matter how good you are on the simulator, your first plane in real life should not have landing gear. So just get used to that. Um, but definitely get a glider or whatever plane you want without landing gear. You can buy a Cessna um, or whatever. Like if you're really dead set on buying a Piper Cub or a Cessna, and just not put the landing gear on, you can do that and belly land as long as you're on grass. I would buy some clear contact or some fiberglass tape or something, and just tape the whole underside of your fuselage up to protect it. It's only foam at the end of the day, so you really want to protect it. Yeah, I would do something like that, and it'll protect it. You can belly land, you can have the odd rough landing, and then once you start really getting really good, then you can put the landing gear on. You can do things like that, but I would just buy a glider. The glider flies slower, flies for longer time as well, because that's another thing. You don't want a plane that only lasts for 10 minutes, because then you're going to be charging batteries a lot, and you're going to need to buy a lot of batteries. Whereas a glider will last half an hour on one battery, because you're not on the throttle all the time. It's very slow. You don't need a lot of power. You can have a lot of takeoff and landings and a lot of practice in half an hour on one battery. So yeah, I would definitely go glider, something like that. And then once you start getting 40 flights or so on your glider, 50 flights, and you're flying in different wind, high wind, low wind. Obviously, you don't want to fly in too high a wind, but yeah, you'll get to know what's too much. And you can start to bring it down very softly, then get a plane with landing gear. Then pretty much the sky's the limit from there on. Once you've mastered wind, flying and landing in wind, and you're not breaking planes all the time, and you're not having rough landings in the glider, then you can go to, um, you know, go to your landing gear planes. Um, and I mean, once you're at landing gear, you're ready to buy a plane with landing gear. that's pretty much, you can go any plane you want. You can go balsa foam, aerobatic, scale, whatever you want. They've all got that. So yeah, it's no dramas after that. But yeah, once you've mastered the simulator, then go out. I would definitely not skimp on a transmitter, especially if you right into it. If you're kind of half serious about it, you're not too sure, then yeah, okay, maybe buy a probably don't go and buy a $500 Spectrum transmitter. I would still stick with Spectrum, but maybe buy a DX6i, I think they're called. You can get them fairly cheap, maybe even second hand. I'd buy one second hand as long as it's in good nick. You can probably get a DX6i second hand for $200 or $300. I think the last one I bought was that transmitter. I think I paid $200. You can normally pick them up. I've seen them on Marketplace for $300 with a couple transmitters, a couple receivers. Sorry, so you'll get the transmitter and a couple receivers. So I'd definitely be looking out for a bargain like that. But stick with a well-known name brand. Being that you haven't done it before, you're going to be looking up on how to program your plane to fly properly on it. If you go and buy an offshoot, off-brand Chinese cheap one for $100, there's probably not going to be a lot out there on the internet on how to program it. Again, stay away from Horus or FrSky. Any TX, any transmitter that uses OpenTX or EdgeTX, the open source stuff. My opinion is stay away from it unless you're really switched on with computers. But it is way overcomplicated for someone starting out. I would have that as maybe your third or fourth radio. And only if you're getting into planes that require 10 plus channels with elevons, flaperons, landing gear, really complicated setups that you need all those channels for. Otherwise, I would steer clear. Spectrum is very easy to understand, so I would definitely stick with that. You can always upgrade later, but if you go and buy a cheap offshoot Chinese copy radio, you're going to regret it very, very quickly when you start setting up your plane. And crashing from normally 2.4 gigahertz is pretty solid. I've never flown like $100 2.4 gig transmitter, so I don't know if they have. You can get brownouts. You can't really get interference, but you can get brownouts where your plane just stops reacting and then it might come back 5 seconds later. So if you're high enough, it's okay. I did grow up when I was first started was 36 megahertz, and there was a lot of interference on that, and crashing a plane by not your fault, you know what I mean. So if you crash a plane because you had a failure because you cheaped out on your transmitter and it had a brownout or got interference or whatever, that's the worst feeling. I don't mind if I was doing some trick and I was kind of doing it really close to the ground and I stuffed up and I crashed the plane. I can kind of live with that. But when it's a gear failure and you've done everything, perfect, but you cheaped out and you bought the cheap thing because it's got $8 receivers rather than a $100 Spectrum receiver, there's a reason it's $8, and you've just found out the reason there, and you've just crashed a $200 or $300 plane. So in my opinion, it's not worth it. Stick with name brand. I think I did mention Futaba. Futaba's really good quality, but they're stuck in the 80s and 90s with their programming and their radios. In my opinion, they're just a little bit not far behind. Everything's there, but they haven't got with the times with programming, with graphs and more visual things. I don't know. Yeah, I've only ever had one Futaba radio, and I had it for about 6 months and sold it. I wasn't a fan of it. So yeah, that's my opinion. Keep it simple, but get good quality stuff, and you won't have a problem. Same with speed controllers. Don't be tempted to jump on Temu or AliExpress and buy a speed controller. They might say it's 30 amp, but it's probably 20 or 15, and then you go and draw 25, and that will burst into flames and bring your whole plane down. So yeah, you definitely don't want to. Cheap out on that stuff, that's for sure. So yeah, even servos. I mean, servos are fairly cheap anyway to begin with, unless you're buying high-tech carbon or Metal Gear servos. They might be $100 a pop. There's not many planes that really require that. The only thing that requires it is like multi-$1,000 planes. But park flyers and things you're going to be learning on, you can. I wouldn't buy the cheapest of cheap servos, but I wouldn't spend $100 on a servo. That's for sure. Plus, you need 4 of them. So if you got ailerons, you got one for each aileron, one for the elevator, one for the rudder. So that's 4 servos you're buying. So I mean, if you can pick them up for, you know, $15 to $20 max each servo, I think you're doing pretty good there, especially if they're Metal Gear. If they're digital Metal Gear, you're probably going to be looking at $20 to $30 a servo. But I mean, if it's a, you know, like a small park flyer that's foam, you don't need Metal Gear. You just get plastic ones. You can pick them up for $4 or $5 a servo. So that's what I'd be doing. Just keep it simple, but buy decent quality. I'm not going to say buy best quality because I never do. I'm not spending $100 on each servo. But yeah, buy good quality. Just realise that whatever you skim, so you can buy $100 servos, but if you go and put, you know, you've run out of money, and then you go and put a $10 speed controller in it, you're probably going to crash, and you're probably going to break those servos that you just paid $400 for. So yeah, you want decent quality stuff. If you do end up joining a club, that's kind of the best way to learn, and that's how I learned. Because you got people that have been doing it for years, and then you know, you might have 30 people there that use one type of speed controller because it is cheap, and out of those 30 people, not one of them's failed, and they might have 10 of them each. You know, they might have 10 planes with 10 of those servos, and never had a failure. So that's one good way to judge things. But if you are kind of on your own, then you know, you got to read reviews. You've got to go to RC groups, read that, and you'll find out what's good and what's not good pretty quickly. But yeah. What else is there? That's about it. Same with the plane, actually. Yeah, I wouldn't go buying a plane off AliExpress. That's especially for your first plane, because you don't know how things should fly. So you definitely want to buy something half decent. I know it's kind of counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, I'm going to break it, I'm going to crash it. But I guarantee if you buy a piece of foam that kind of looks like in the shape of a plane from AliExpress, and no one's done any R&D on it or anything, but it was $40, and you buy it, it's probably not going to fly, and you probably will crash it. Whereas if you go and buy a Park Zone, Hobby Zone, FMS, you know, something like that, that's still relatively pretty cheap, but there's thousands of them out there. People know how they fly, and they fly pretty good. That's probably your better way to go, because it's a proven airframe. So if it does crash for some whatever reason, you kind of know it's something you did, and not something that has happened. One example is I bought. So there was a guy at my club. Whoops! There was a guy at my club that kind of used to import stuff from China, and he used to bring. He had a trailer, so he had like probably call it like an enclosed motorbike trailer. It wasn't really a 6x4, but it wasn't much smaller than that. But enclosed with lockable door and everything. And he'd bring that to the park every weekend, and he'd sell stuff out of that. He'd just import it. I don't know where he was getting his stuff from, but he had it all there. Really handy. So if you bought your plane from him, he'd sell spare wing, spare tail, spare servos, all that kind of stuff. But even if you had another plane and you broke a servo or a speed controller, you could buy it off him straight away and fix it straight away. Really good. So he actually started bringing in. So he started off with parts, and then he started bringing in cheapy foamy planes, and then he started bringing in some really nice planes. And he actually brought in would have been about a 1.8 meter Cessna. It had a fiberglass fuselage, fully painted, and balsa wings. But very scale looking, really nice. Anyway, good price. I think it cost me about $300, and I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But you know, because it's that big and heavy, everything costs more. So you needed expensive servos, expensive motor, expensive 6S battery. You know, most planes fly on a 3S battery. This needed 6S. So, you know, even though the plane's $300, you probably got $1,000 into it by the time you put all that kind of gear in it. Anyway, built it up. He was there for my maiden flight. Actually, it just worked out well that he rocked up at the same time I did, and I said, oh, you know, I've just finished building that Cessna, so gonna fly it now. He was there. This is actually a blessing thinking back about it now. He was there when I connected everything. I checked everything was moving the same way, and because it's a maiden, you check the center of gravity. The only way to adjust it is by adding weight, taking weight, or moving your battery. So I checked the center of gravity. I actually had little marks there. He was there while I was doing that. Checked the center of gravity, and it balanced out okay. I think I moved the battery once or twice. This was a long time ago. I can't really remember. Move the battery to make it a little bit more forward. You kind of want it especially on your first flight. You don't want it rear of the CFG. You want it forward, if anything, but not too much. So yeah, off we went. You know, I put lights in it. I put nav lights in it and all sorts of stuff. Went to town on this thing, and yeah, went to fly it. It took off. Had a bit of a tail wiggle, and then all of a sudden, it just hit the deck, and I just turned around and looked at him. It just burst into a million pieces like an explosion. There was nothing left of it. It broke my battery. It broke because the batteries are just like foil. They're in like a foil pack if you have a look at a LiPo battery. And it, you know, concertinaed that, and I bought that battery for that plane, so it literally been used for less than a minute, and it was gone. And yeah, and oh, there we go. Gonna be belly landing this now. So yeah, he saw everything happen, and I kind of picked up the pieces as best I could. The wings weren't too badly damaged. It kind of just nosed in, so the fuselage was gone. And I just I just shook my head. I couldn't believe it. And he came after about 20 minutes, half an hour. I kind of put it all away in the car, take it home to pull all the servos out. Obviously, it's going to go in the bin. And he came and gave me my money back. And he goes, "Look, I can't give you the money for the servos and stuff like that, but here's the money back for your plane." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice of you." Yeah. He goes, "Well, look, I know the way you fly. And I saw you check everything, and there's no way that would have just fallen out of the air because it's your fault." He goes, and then we looked at it. I actually ripped it out of the car, and then some other people come to have a look because I could see I was pretty pissed off, so they kind of left me alone. But then when I ripped it out of the car and we were talking about it, what I'll do is I'll kill the engine and glide her in. And yeah, we kind of looked at it, and someone else had a Cessna, not the same model, a different one, and you could kind of see where the wings clip onto the fuselage right at the top there. The angle was way off. It was swept up way too much, and they should have really been sitting flatter. So the front of the wing, where it hits the fuselage, where it cradles the wing, the fuselage cradles the wing, it was too high. So the angle of attack of the wing was way too high. So it pretty much took off, stalled, did a flip, and just went down. It's like I had a whole heap of up elevator in it, but I had none. So yeah, it was we kind of figured out what it was compared to other planes. And yeah, he gave me my money back and everything. But that's what I'm trying to say. That was I didn't eat. The box was a bare cardboard box full of Cessna bits, brand new. You could see they're all boxed up. Everything had sticky tape on it and everything. But yeah, that's what you don't want. And then I ended up, because he gave me my money back for that, that weekend, I went to because I really wanted a big Cessna. I went and bought a Great Plains Cessna. Great Plains is a well-known brand. I think they're still around now. Looked 100 times better. Had all the little rivets on it and the little flutes in the flaps and way more scale. Had a scale cockpit. That was $500, not $300, but it looked a lot better. I pretty much put all the stuff out of that plane into this plane, so I had everything. I think the motor shaft, I had to change the motor shaft, so you can pull the motor shafts apart, the motors apart, and change the shaft because it was bent. I needed a new prop, new spinner, and then everything out of that plane went into that plane pretty much. Fixed a few things, but otherwise pretty good. I had to buy a new battery, and that thing I flew for probably 3 years, and it was beautiful. That flew really nice. The only thing was it was a bit big for the park. I think again that was 1.8 meter, 1.7, something like that. It's a bit big, bit heavy, so that's kind of the reason I sold it. Plus, because it was so big, it was hard to get in and out of the car. I used to have a ute for work with an enclosed back end, really good for that. But then I lost that, and that car got old, and I got a new car, and they were putting fiberglass canopies, and there just wasn't enough room in it. So that's kind of what made me stop flying. And it's, storing it at home takes up a lot of room. Transporting it is hard, and yeah, and it's a bit big and heavy. So I did put a picture up of the park that we fly at. I will see if I can do the same thing here. Yeah, so the park we fly at is fairly uncommon due to the fact it is a public park and anyone has access to it. So if you go to Whiteman Park, which is over here, so this is like um, not even 10 minutes away from my house. So that's not it here. So this is so you got a road in. There's normally a gate kind of here. There's a gate. Sorry, here. There's a gate. And then there's another gate down here. And then you get to here. So no one, so general members of the public can park here and park there, but they can't get past here. It's all gated off and everything. And then everybody flies. And then even if you're a pilot, you have to stand on these, depending on which runway, depending on the wind, is you stand on the three tiles or there's four tiles down here, three there, one in the middle, and there. So this area is for park flyers and helicopters, and then this is for your big planes. So all decked out, no members of the public can ever be there. So then where I fly, my club, I'm not a member yet, but I will join up when I get a plane. It's literally a public park, and anyone can come from. So we normally fly in this area here, and our flight line's about here somewhere. But literally anyone can just park a car and walk across and walk across. We put cones out and signs, so it kind of keeps some people away, but not really. But it doesn't stop someone coming from this side and crossing and then getting halfway in the middle going, oh, well, there's planes everywhere. People don't really look. But we can't stop them anyway because it's a public park. So yeah, due to that fact, that's kind of what put me off flying a big heavy plane like that, because if you did hit someone, it's gonna hurt them. And obviously, when you join the club, you got insurance and all that. But yeah, it's kind of why I gave it up. So this side is better. It's a lot flatter. So this used to be a tip back in the day, in the 50s, 40s, 60s, whatever. So this is very, very uneven. This ground we fly at. Over here is not too bad, and out here, but right in front of us really is the most uneven. They reckon they buried trucks and cars and all sorts of stuff, and things are collapsing over time with rust, and then collapsing, and it's dragging the sand down. So they've never leveled it off. They do level this side off. You can see it's a little bit more looked after because they have soccer and something else they play there. I can't remember, but is that cricket? Yeah, there's cricket. There you go. So you got cricket and then soccer. So that has to be dead flat. So we used to be allowed to fly on this side, but we're not anymore because everyone started having a whinge that we were taking up both sides, and kids are trying to play here, and we're flying model airplanes around them. So yeah, we got kicked off that side. We're only allowed on this side now. So all good. But that's why I want to try and keep with scale planes. They're a bit not smaller, but they're slower and lighter, and gliders because they're very slow, very light. They're not, and they're foam. So yeah, so that's why I want to keep with that and just make it easy. We used to fly jets, like really loud jets. Nowadays the jets are a lot quieter. They're like 12 blade minimum, the props on the jet. Back in the day they were 3 and 4 blade. 5 blade was considered quite high count. But the more blades you have, the quieter it is. So they sound not too bad now, but back in the day, it was we were having fights with all these people. It was these people whinging to the council whinging to us, threatening to close us down. So we had to do something about it. So I think they pretty much banned jets, or when you got a new model, we had a sound meter, and you had to go through the sound meter to pass the test. It had to be under a certain amount of dB. But that measures dB, not sound pitch, and that all came out, and we had to get people from the uni to come and show us how to use. But anyway, so yeah, too much info. So that all got swept. So yeah, no more jets. I'm pretty sure you can't fly jets, or you can't fly loud planes. I think they allow jets now, but they can't be loud. And the president of the club has final say whether it's too loud or not, because he's the one that's going to be copping all the flack from the council and from these residents here. Apparently over here somewhere, it's not a swanky area, but it's not cheap around here. Like it's $1 million plus, or probably multi-million dollar, two or three. Even though they're older houses, um, it's pretty swanky kind of upmarket area just here because it's close to the city. You can see the Perth city's just there, and we're just here. So yeah, it's not very far. Apparently, someone that lives in one of these houses over around here somewhere is on the council as well, or has a lot of pull with the council, and that's why we were under scrutiny every time we were there because he could hear us all the time. So yeah, so that was. But apparently that's not an issue. I haven't been there for 5. I go every now and again, but I haven't flown there for 5 years. So yeah, apparently it's not an issue anymore because we all keep up this end. We don't go down this end anymore. We don't actually go past probably this tree. Yeah, we kind of stay and don't go past this tree. So it's pretty much, stay in this kind of area here. And landing, we're only landing here. We don't land. It's not like we land over here unless you have a crash landing. But yeah, mainly landing is over here. But yeah, pretty unique because it is a public park. Yeah, pretty unique. But the club has been here since the 60s or 70s, and that's why we're allowed to be there. I dare say if you were to try and open up go to this park over here and try a remote control aeroplane park, I don't think it's going to go down very well. Yeah, so that's the only reason. But yeah, that's where I'm going to start flying. It's not that far from my house, probably 15-minute drive, 20-minute drive. So yeah, that's what we'll do. But that's kind of where it is in relation to Perth. And yeah, all good. Anyway, I think we'll leave it at that. Any questions or anything that I haven't covered, let me know in the comments and I'll try and answer them as best I can. Obviously, this video is way off what I normally do, so I don't expect everyone that's subscribed to the channel to watch this stuff. But if you're interested, give it a shot. Yeah, so like I said, I'm waiting for another month or so till the specials come out, and that's when I'll start buying the plane, transmitter, that kind of stuff. I just got back from Bunnings and bought a few little tools that I kind of need to do things. Nothing serious. I'm not gonna go out all out like I did last time and have spares of spares of spares and every single little tool that you need that you use kind of once every year or one time when you first build a plane. I'm not going to get into that anymore. So we'll just keep it nice and simple, I think, and we'll leave it at that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully you're still watching or listening, and we'll catch you on the next video. See you later.